This is the start. This is your heart. This is the day you were born. This is the sun. These are your lungs.
Because I would see him do things. Here's an example. There was a couple who drove in one day, beat up station wagon. It looked like they did have their worldly belongings in there, stuff strapped to the top. Desperate, and they pull in and they say, "We're just wondering if you're hiring right now. We need work. We've worked on dairies before. We're very experienced." And he said, "Well, I'm sorry, I don't have any openings right now, but I think there's a couple places up the road that I know of that are looking for people. Why don't you come in and have lunch, and I'll make some phone calls. Bryan, would you gas up their car?" I mean, it was just, I'm thinking, you don't know these people. And then he made phone calls. He arranged for them to be able to have a job. He gave them like, I don't know how much money he gave them. He handed them some money, and off they go.
Yeah.
That's Jesus.
Yeah.
Just let me help you. Let me give you hope for this world. Those kind of things, when you watch that happening on a daily basis, and also understanding from my own standpoint that he had a lot of patience with me. I mean, when someone pours grace out to you, you have to see it. You're either brain dead or you see it. There was something inside. The Holy Spirit is drawing me and pulling me. And it was while I was down there that I decided I need to stop doing drugs.
Destroying yourself.
Yep. I need to get rid of this stuff. Is not helping me. I threw it all away. I didn't even sell it. I just threw what I had away. Afterwards, there were a few times where I fell back in. I'd lapse into it. But for the most part, it was like, that's it. I'm done. And this is where you can look at where you're at now, and you know that all the way through it, God was working things out. He was working it out. It wasn't his plan for me to be a dairy farmer all my life. And I'm at the point now where I'm 62. I'm glad I'm not getting up at 3:00 and milking cows every day or hauling hay or any of those other things. Right.
I want to read from Ecclesiastes 3, because it talks about seasons, and because it feels like we're entering into this next season of your life of discipleship. So this is just 3:1 through 8. There's a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to build. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones and a time to gather them. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to search and a time to give up. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to mend. A time to be silent and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. I swear it's not too late. Sorry, I had to throw in the birds there.
Pete Seeger.
Is that who that was with the birds?
No, Pete Seeger wrote it.
Okay. But he was, Pete Seeger is nothing. The birds just took it and made it into a hit.
Yeah, you can go on YouTube and you can listen to Pete Seeger's version, which is a little bit different.
Yeah, probably not as good, or maybe we're just spoiled by
No, in fact, he said, I read I heard an interview with him a while back, and he said that when he does it in concert, he does their version because he just loves it.
Ecclesiastes is interesting because it seems like it says the teacher, and most people believe Solomon is the teacher, the writer.
Yeah.
But it's not a feel-good book. It's almost like a book of someone who's worn out and tired, and it's like, don't put your hopes in these things, because and even his thing here about the seasons, it's beautiful and poetic, but he's just like, it's all going to happen, the good and the bad, the happiness and the sadness, it's all happening. And I think a lot of people, particularly when they come to Christ, and maybe we do a poor job of selling or giving expectations of, because on one level it's the path to life, but on the other level, it's still going to be hard.
it talks about in Ecclesiastes, he uses this phrase, meaningless, which I went ahead and looked it up, and the Hebrew word is, where do I have it here? Hebel.
Hebel.
Hebel, Hebel. And it means vanity. And some versions say it's all vanity, but it really means perplexing.
Okay,
or a riddle.
That's good. That's
a
lot
riddle.
different. That's a lot different than meaninglessness.
Yeah, and
it's a head scratcher.
Yeah, it's like, how do I figure this out? How do I know when things are good, when things are bad? And, he uses both the phrase meaningless and things under the sun too. That's used like 25 times.
Mm-hmm.
But we sometimes read those with our own mind, our own interpretation of what that means. And really what it means by the things under the sun is, what can you see in front of you? It doesn't mean what's happening around the world, because think about, just like in our lives, it's when we're under the sun that we actually can see things. It's when we're in darkness, it's very hard to see things, right? What was the point? It's a riddle. I'm very perplexed right now, God. What am I supposed to take from this? How am I supposed to solve this, right? And he had a plan that went way beyond my plans, because by stepping into this career, for one thing, when I hired on, I had no idea, Alex, of the benefits.
Yeah.
I didn't. I just needed a job.
Yeah.
It wasn't until later on, it's like, when you hit 56, you have to retire. What?
Yeah.
But the beautiful thing about that is they pay you. They're continuing to send me money, Alex.
Yeah.
On a monthly basis. Well, the world tells you that you should take care of you.
Yeah.
It's all based about you. Satan feeds into our selfishness.
Yeah.
All those things.
The scriptures delineate between light and dark, and are very strong on that. And we run into trouble when we want to blend and we want to syncretize and mix light and dark together. But often the wisdom of the world is a mixing together. And it's ironic, because we certainly see that in Solomon's life.
Yeah.
He was so smart, and he knew, and yet part of his wisdom turned out to be complete folly, because he even has one of the sections he has is about that there's no real pleasure. There's no real permanent joy in seeking pleasure. And he probably knew more about that than any of us do, with his however many wives he had. And he says he gave himself whatever he wanted, he gave it to himself. He had the ability to do that. And more and more so. And now we do that. And he finds out that, you can't, there's not two ways to live. It's just hard, because we know there's one way to live, but getting ourselves to not have a foot on one path and on the other path simultaneously seems like that's the battle.
Yeah.